Dennis and Casper here for Submission Radio ahead of UFC 229 with the man himself, John Morgan, after a very interesting press conference that didn't quite go the way that we thought. I mean, we thought there was going to be some real interesting stuff happen, but this is a different kind of interesting. Now, before we get to that, let's have a look at the arena. I mean, this place is unbelievable. John, just the setup for this press conference, it was kind of set up to deliver something special.
It really was. I mean, listen, the Park Theater here is a beautiful place, right next to T-Mobile where the venue is going to be. So it was set up to be big, a lot of fans, ton of people in the house. It was fantastic. And then we got something, as you said, totally different. We still got a show. It just wasn't the show we were looking for.
What did you make of Khabib leaving early, sort of sticking to his guns, sticking to his schedule? Did you think it was sort of a smart tactical thing to not really play into Conor McGregor's game? I feel like, imagine if you were on a date, then the girl doesn't show up. You wouldn't sit there. You would say, screw it, I'm leaving. I'm not waiting for them. I'm not giving them power. What did you think?
Well, it depends how good the frosty beverages are.
That's a good point.
Anyway, so, no, but you know what? I like Khabib for sticking to his guns and saying, listen, man, I told you I'm going to start at 3 o'clock. And I love the fact he walked out on the stage without Dana even there. He's like, we'll start this thing all by myself if we have to. I don't care, but I'm going to be here, and then I'm leaving. So I loved it. I mean, it does make you wonder. It was tough because there were some audio issues, right? And he couldn't hear very well, so it made it a little tougher to judge his demeanor. But I love it. He's like, listen, Conor, do what you want to do. Go play the show. Do what you want to do. But it's not going to affect me. It's not going to impact what I need to do. I can respect it.
I thought it was interesting as well when Khabib came out, just the fact that, like you said, he's sort of controlling things. But do you think strategically as well, I was thinking about the fact, is this sort of the smartest thing he could have done leading into this fight? We believe this press conference was going to be a big part of Conor McGregor's mental warfare. He was going to sort of land his round 2, round 3 blows on him and sort of try and finish him off with the weigh-in before the big fight. Do you think this actually worked out perfectly for Khabib in a lot of ways?
I think that's a brilliant point. It absolutely did. I mean, the crowd being here, he still had to fight the crowd. I mean, we could hear the chants. It's like, you know, Conor was in here in spirit if he wasn't here presently. So, you know, I think it still was a little bit of an emotional challenge for him. But yeah, I think that's absolutely right. He didn't have to sit there. He didn't have to deal with the back and forth and Conor talking over him and the crowd yelling at him and them, you know, parroting everything he says. So yeah, I think honestly it worked out best. It was weird because, you know, I think all of our reaction was, oh my God, now we don't get to see the face-off. I'm so upset. And we did miss the face-off. But I like Dana White saying, yeah, but guess what? We don't have to worry about any security issues. And we also got to hear from both fighters, you know, unobstructed by the others. So in a lot of ways, I mean, if you'd have said this is the way we're going to do it, I think everybody would say, well, that is a dumb idea. The way it played out, I thought it was okay.
Just quickly, what did you think of the crowd? Do you think they've gotten into his head at all, Khabib? I mean, we saw at the open workout, Khabib came out. He was kind of talking to the crowd. He did some homework on Conor McGregor and the country, and he was going at the crowd. Casper mentioned a great point. Why use this early? Why not save this to the press conference? Kind of worked out because there wasn't really a press conference. Did you see a point where they actually affected him, where he got emotional, where he's going to be thinking about this tonight?
I don't think so. I don't think so. And I think it was, I was worried that was going to happen. I thought that very well happened. You know, we talked about it happening to Eddie Alvarez. You know, at the last minute, you're like, wow, this guy has done so well. And then it all went downhill. So I think this played out for the best for Khabib Nurmagomedov. I mean, that doesn't change the fact that Conor can absolutely win this fight. That left hand can knock out, if you're mad, happy, sad, whatever, can still knock you out. But yeah, I think this kind of allowed Khabib to get off the hook a little bit easier.
From a business perspective, let's be honest, the press conference has one purpose and one purpose only, and that's to drive up the pay-per-view buys, do some more promotion. Compare this to UFC 205. We had Conor jumping in with the big coat, the tags hanging out, the chair moment with Eddie Alvarez.
And it was quiet before that as well. Before that press conference, the election was happening.
Yeah.
People were kind of grim in New York. I remember we got there, we were staying in the basement in Harlem. Maybe that was a part of it. There was a guy called Big Ron who took our bags and called me baby. And when a guy called Big Ron calls you baby, you just go along with it. And our door didn't lock. But anyway, that's a different story. It was quiet, and then he ran out with that chair with the tag with the thing, and then that drove up the pay-per-view sales. We didn't feel the vibe until then.
You were there at UFC 202, of course, which was like a ghost town. The Nate Diaz rematch, still currently the record for most UFC pay-per-view buys. It wasn't until the water bottle throwing incident that things really kicked off. We didn't have that here, and the press conference was somewhat late. How, if any way, do you think that sort of affects any of the pay-per-view buys, the way it's trending? What do you think of the UFC's promotion thus far of what is supposed to be the biggest event ever?
Yeah, no, listen, I mean, I felt the same way leading into this. I mean, I think today, you know, immediately I thought, oh, the face-off, that's going to hurt things. It's not. It's not. People want to hear those sound bites from Conor McGregor. They want to see it. This is another talking point. You know what I mean? If we just saw the face-off, we've seen, how many face-offs have we seen? You know, now it's going to put even more attention to the face-off tomorrow, to ceremonial weigh-ins. But I can tell you this, you know, in talking about those big events that you mentioned as well, I have been so busy this week doing interviews with radio stations around the country. You know, people that I only hear from once or twice a year, if that. You know, everybody.
Like Submission Radio over 2 weeks.
So you didn't know who texted you that one time and just said yes to an interview.
No, but I think this is going to be big. And I understand, like, from the outside looking in, like, especially if you're in the MMA bubble, that you could say, oh, the UFC botched up promotion, like those things that Dana's saying about 2.5 million pay-per-views, it's crazy.
I believe it's 3 and 3.5
now it's up
million
to 3. But look at the
It's going to
numbers.
be 4.
I'm sure your
Is it
guys'
malarkey?
traffic.
Do you believe it's
no,
real?
I think it's going to happen because this is going to be one of those fights that captures people's attention. It's going to be an impulse buy for a lot of people. Just in the same way that how many people bought Maymac that knew nothing about boxing, absolutely nothing about boxing. I think the same thing is going to happen here. You're going to have people buy this fight that don't know anything about mixed martial arts, but it's becoming, you know, the water cooler discussion right now. It's becoming what everybody's fighting. It's the biggest event, social event, not just a sporting event. I think they're going to hit those numbers. Call me crazy too. I think they're going to hit those numbers.
I want to go around and do some predictions in just a second, boys, but before we do, the weigh-ins still have to happen. Obviously, Khabib's got some controversy around him. Conor McGregor never always has the easiest weight cuts, although this is lightweight. We have heard rumblings that, you know, he's been struggling in some aspects, maybe making the weight and hasn't had as much time to focus on it. Do you think we may have some nasty surprises tomorrow? Do you think the main event may not work out? Well, the MMA gods.
What are you doing?
Well, the MMA gods. What will they do?
I feel like every event, people avoid talking about this, and then we get screwed. We're trying to break the curse.
So we got to be aggressive on it.
That's right.
All right. Come at us,
Screw
MMA
you,
guys.
curse.
Now, listen, man. I don't think anything's going to happen. I mean, I can't believe I'm saying that. But you know, anything
just
can
jinxed it,
happen.
John. I brought it up, and then you jinxed it.
It's on me. Yeah, no, listen, I don't. I mean, I think the what's at stake here is too much. You know what I mean? What is happening here for both these guys? Career changing, life changing, all those things. I don't think it's going to happen. Everything we heard about Khabib's camp, it was the best ever. Conor, it's not like he's getting out of shape. I mean, even on his yacht, you know, they serve pretty healthy food. So I think he's doing okay. I think we're going to make weight and we're going to have a face-off. We're going to have a hell of a fight.
What do you think in terms of predictions? I mean, we are going to go around and get a couple of predictions, still the weigh-ins, but who do you think is winning this fight?
I've been leaning towards Khabib Nurmagomedov all the way from the time the fight was announced till now, and it is, man, when you see Conor again up close, you realize the confidence, you realize the skill, you realize the talent, you realize the way he almost wills things into existence, and there's no question that he's got the knockout power to end this fight. I do believe Khabib has the tools to win, and that is the grappling, that is the relentless nature of his aggression, that is the relentless pace over 25 minutes. I don't know that Khabib can finish this fight, but I don't know that Conor can get up off his back 5 times, which I think is what he's going to have to do. So I'm leaning towards Khabib, but I mean, if Conor sparks him in the first round, as he says, it won't shock me because he can do that to anybody.
It's interesting because with this fight, it's difficult to make a prediction, but you got to stand, you got to fall on your sword if it doesn't work out. I couldn't disagree with John Morgan more. I believe this fight finishes in the first round. It's going to be a Conor McGregor KO win, and I believe in it so much that around 6 or 7 in the morning when we were jumping on the plane from Melbourne, Australia, I turned over to Casper and whispered into his ear, I believe that this will happen just before anybody else can claim it, just before anybody else can say that I copied anyone else. It will be a first round knockout. I could go into the technique behind it and what's going to happen, but basically Khabib, he's an A to B to C grappler, and I believe while he's in that B to C, that's when Conor McGregor is going to strike. I believe he's just too quick, his striking's too good, and his distance management is too good. And when it comes to deficits, I actually believe that Khabib has to make the biggest deficit of improving his striking enough not to get caught. I believe Conor McGregor is actually a pretty good grappler. People don't realize this. He has techniques that people don't even realize that he's done in fights. Dan Hardy pointed out, the ex-guy, Dan Hardy talked about the fact that he's a brown belt. This is not a stupid guy. He knows what's happening here. He's not going to be an easy takedown. He's going to be scrappy all the way, and I think that's when he catches Khabib. But again, like you mentioned, I'm going to follow my sword if it doesn't happen, but of course Khabib always has an opportunity to win.
You nailed it, though. That's the danger zone for Khabib, is just getting, as you said, into that B2C range, getting right up close. He doesn't have the traditional shot from distance, the American wrestling double leg from across the cage. He doesn't have that. It's about getting his hands on you, getting it tight. That's the part of this fight you're going to want to watch.
I think one of the other different things about Conor McGregor is his framing. BJJ Scout did an excellent job at highlighting this. A lot of fighters, when they defend takedowns, they try and counter with sort of one shot, whereas Conor's focus is stop the takedown first, stop them from even getting in there, use those frames, and only then focus on actually striking and doing some damage. I think the other difference about Khabib and his past opponents is a lot of them, even though Khabib has that relentless pressure and he's going to be in Conor's face the whole time, they're not necessarily as good as Conor as far as countering, and also that you've got the accuracy. So even if Khabib is coming forward, Conor's got the ability to move backwards and hit him with a shot, and I think it's going to happen in round 2. We've seen it a lot of times where the wrestler sort of gets the first round, they get some early takedowns, and then the sweat comes into play, and then I think in the second round it's going to be ending.
There is some questions though. What kind of condition is Conor McGregor in? We hear there maybe some cardio issues. We don't know. Will he be able to last the whole 5 rounds? It's going to be fascinating. Just quickly, as we wrap up, and just quickly as well, Submission Radio YouTube channel, all the media UFC Day interviews. I know John Morgan was
Or
watching.
MMA Junkie.
Or MMA
You know,
Junkie. John Morgan was taking photos of us interviewing the real Conor McGregor in the lobby, but we do have fantastic interviews with people like Michelle Waterson, Derek Lewis, Tony Ferguson, Anthony Pettis. The list goes on. Just quickly as we wrap up, where does this rank to you as the biggest, out of the biggest MMA events of all time? Now, I'll be honest to you, when it came to UFC 202, I felt something else in the air. You know, when it came to UFC 205 after that press conference, I was feeling something else. With this one, do you believe this could truly be the biggest MMA event of all time? And is it feeling like that right now?
I do. I think it can be, and I think it's you know, it depends, I guess, on what you're basing that on. I mean, if you're based on financial results, I think this is absolutely going to be it. But this is monumental. I mean, if Conor wins, man, his star goes to another level. I'm beating the undefeated, unbeatable Russian, you know. But if Khabib pulls the upset, can you imagine that? You know, it changes the rhetoric of everything for Conor. I think it's going to be huge.
Why are you measuring things? Just to throw this in there, the media day today was insane. By far the most packed, most crowded media, people-filled media day we've ever been a part of.
A few line cutters.
Yeah.
Few line cutters, which isn't appreciated around here.
We don't take too kindly
They
to
didn't
that.
come up with the John Morgan respect factor that he taught us a long time ago, but it's certainly, look, the way I see it right now, fellas, is this is a novel, and half of the book has been written.
That's right.
But the most important, the big twist, the big finish, that is still to come. That is happening here in Las Vegas, Submission Radio, here with John Morgan. Excited to see what happens next.